Welcome to Sense Style. I'm Stuart. In my last couple of videos, I talked an awful lot about fragrance marketing. And if you look at this graph, you can see why there's so many people interested in marketing fragrances. There's a lot of money to be made. But alas, this video is not about marketing. It's about the exact opposite, because marketing is for people that haven't figured out their own aesthetic and they don't know what's good and what isn't. This video is for the opposite, for people that are established, that know what they like, for experienced fragrance enthusiasts. And the fragrances they like, that they figure out over time, they're really good, they're really high quality, and they will be waiting there for you. Fragrance number one is Guerlain's L'Homme Idéal Parfum. The house of Guerlain is almost 200 years old. It does not require marketing. It is an established brand. And actually, the L'Homme Idéal line now is an established line. It was actually confirmed when they put this out. This parfum, if you recall, was released at the same time as Habit Rouge Parfum and Guerlain Vetiver Parfum. And so now, the Idéal line is considered to be one of Guerlain's pillars. And that's going all the way back to the mid-60s with the release of Habit Rouge. Now, this particular fragrance within the line is coded more mature. Idéal Extreme, however, was considered to be more mass appealing. It was a fragrance of the year in Fragrantica in 2020. It's fruity, it's sweet. It's not really actually that extreme. It's certainly not in terms of longevity. The most popular overall, though, is the Parfum. But it's popular for an interesting reason. I don't think a lot of people are aware. I certainly wasn't until recently. 1/3 of men's fragrances are regularly worn by women, and this is one of them. They don't just wear it, they buy this. So this is popular because it appeals to women. It has a powdery component that can be interpreted as softer, and it's got a cherry note, and women tend to love the cherry note. So this one is very unisex. But the Parfum, my most recent acquisition, it definitely leans more mature. So you're going to get leather with parfums because it's more traditionally masculine. You're also going to get amaretto. Really, I can't see a lot of 25-year-olds to 30-year-olds drinking amaretto. That's more an established liqueur. It's not just rum or whiskey. It's amaretto. It's an almondy liqueur. Then you're going to get musk. It's got a musky element, and patchouli, which is dark. So three of those notes, amaretto, patchouli, and leather, are quite dark. So it's dark and dense and deep and rich, but definitely more mature. Excellent performance. This will be waiting for you when you hit 40. Fragrance number two is a kind of fragrance that's going to be waiting for you when you get into more expensive niche scents. This is Bal D'Afrique by the house of Byredo. And Byredo is a very expensive house. This is a $250 fragrance. Bal D'Afrique is their most popular scent, but it's a quiet luxury house. It's actually been very successful. The quiet luxury has been a very, very popular theme. Byredo was just acquired a couple of years ago, or a year ago, from Puig, over $1 billion. So it's doing really well. But it's funny because they work awfully hard to look like they're not working hard as a house. Now, I gotta admit, the one flaw here is you're talking about $250 fragrance, and yet you're only going to get about 5 hours performance, and it's fairly light in terms of projection. But the scent itself is super high quality and very interesting. And of course, you guys probably know that once you get to high-end niche, everything is labeled unisex, but in this particular case, this is right down the middle. It appeals to men on the one hand. There's a lot of vetiver here. There's some cedar as well, but mainly vetiver. So the woody component leans masculine, but it has a very floral mid, cyclamen and violet, which leans feminine. So you've got one side masculine, one side feminine. But oddly enough, the appeal of this fragrance is the open. The open is seen as being one of the best opens out there. It opens with bergamot. Now that's pretty standard, but then you get what's called an African marigold, which actually hails from Mexico. It was misnamed. They didn't change it back. It's actually got an aromatic feel to it. So it's an aromatic combined with the bergamot. And then you've got something called busha, which actually is African. It's a shrub there, and it comes across as smelling like berries, like blackcurrant kind of thing. So it's just a combination of three different things in the open: the citrus, the berries. Very, very pleasant opening. And yeah, the only issue here is, can you handle paying $250 for a fragrance you're only going to get 5 hours of performance with? A lot of people seem to. When I was 7 years old, my family moved from Jamaica to Montreal. quite the change. And one of the first things I remember was when I was learning how to skate at an arena. It was like really cold in there. My nose would be running. And then we go to the vending machine and we get hot chocolate. And I was like, oh, this is what Canadians do. But it was perfect. I mean, it was warm and it was sweet. It was cozy. Recently, I discovered a fragrance. This is Gray Flannel from Geoffrey Beene that really works in cold weather as well, but a completely different way. It's called Gray Flannel, the idea of flannel being warming, but I think of it more as like a gray wool sweater, like a really thick wool sweater that really does make you feel warmer. It's odd how scents can do that to you, but Gray Flannel, I mean, it really works. Now, this is something that's been recommended to me, I don't know how many times. I pushed it off, mainly because it's a $15 fragrance. So yeah, not super expensive. It was released in 75. Now it did win Fragrance of the Year in 1976, but it's gone through numerous reformulations, and I knew that, and I knew what they do to fragrances. However, this apparently, and I'll back that up, is one of the fragrances that have survived all the reformulations. It's really good. It's still deep. And it's potent. Now, it does have oak moss, but it's got a lot of other things, mainly violet. There's a ton of violet here. There's also petitgrain, galbanum, so it's got a green component to it. There's iris, and it is quite powdery, and then there's a couple of woods with a lot of vetiver. But I don't know how they do it. They stick all those things together, and it just feels really comforting. What's interesting about the price tag is that Geoffrey Beene was a super expensive fashion house. Lady Bird Johnson, Pat Nixon, Nancy Reagan all wore Geoffrey Beene. Very, very expensive. The only reason they came up with this fragrance, now it was more expensive back then, they came up with it because they knew that people liked the name and they associated with it, but everything was too expensive for most people to buy, so they created a fragrance so that people had access to it. Yeah, I mean, now it's turned into a $15 fragrance. It's kind of weird. But here's the problem for some people. This is not a compliment beast in any way, shape, or form. However, if you are all dressed up in a nice wool coat, really nice scarf, and it's cold out, this is the kind of scent that accents that look perfectly. Like, you might get a compliment on your outfit, and subconsciously it'll be the way that the fragrance fits in with the outfit, but the fragrance itself, no, it's not the most appealing, and it's certainly not like what everyone is wearing these days. But yeah, I mean, this should work in the winter if you're dressed up nicely, if you're outside in the cold. If you're like me and you've got like hundreds of fragrances and you're on your fragrance journey and you feel like you've smelled everything, something like Tom Ford's Oud Minerale really works. If you want to get something that is very, very different, this is a fragrance of polarities. The perfumer specifically wanted something that was completely opposite end of the pole. They put oud on the one hand and C notes on the other. Not only did they use C notes, they didn't use cologne, which is normally used for C notes. It was created in a different way. So you've got this huge pole between two different things. And when Tom Ford first smelled it, his reaction was, oh, this is effing fabulous. Now, the funny thing is they needed a name for the other fragrance they were doing at the time. And so they named that effing fabulous, but this is a fragrance that actually inspired it. And it is fabulous, especially given the craziness of the notes. The construction here is C notes, seagrass, balsam fir, and salt. That creates the oceanic, the aquatic feel, and then you've got oud. Now, there's not a ton of oud, but there's just enough for you to know it, and it gives you a funky feel. This is actually one of 4 Tom Ford fragrances, including Tobacco Oud, Oud Fleur, and Oud Wood. Those actually have a lot of oud. This only has a little bit, but it has enough that you will remember it. So this is the kind of thing that'll be waiting for you when you want to get more adventurous and try something new. And that's what happened to me when I went to Sephora. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but my reaction was similar to Tom Ford's. 2 years ago, I had a ton of designer fragrances. I really understood it, and I wanted to get into niche a little more. I had a couple, but I needed more. I met up with Chad on a really hot day, and he had 13 different Acqua de Parma fragrances, a really good house to start if you're looking at niche. I had some Manceras, I had some Montals, but those tend to be, well, there are a lot of like clones, there are a lot of similarities between them. Acqua de Parma, a lot of unique ones, and my favorite that day was this, Mandorlo di Sicilia. It wasn't one of Chad's favorites, so he gave me the rest of the bottle, which I thought was really good, and I absolutely love it. Now, this is part of the Mediterranean line. Oh, by the way, I loved all 13. I mean, they were great, but this was my favorite. Unfortunately, this one doesn't really represent the Mediterranean line. They're all in blue, like it all meant to be like aquatic kind of thing. This is actually Sicily, and the fragrance, it does have some freshness. It's got orange and bergamot. It's got a little bit of peach, but really this is more about the desserts, the almond-based desserts that you get in Sicily. So technically in the Mediterranean, but more adjacent to the Mediterranean than anything else. So you're going to get green mandarin, you're going to get green almond, star anise. You're going to get some vanilla. I get like a Dr. Pepper feel. Excellent performance, but Acqua de Parma is a really good way to start, especially if you like fresh fragrances, to start out with niche. Be waiting for you. I've noticed there are an awful lot of people that have been collecting fragrances for a while that are reluctant to try oud. It makes sense. And if you do tend to like oud, you'll probably like something that's relatively straightforward, or a lighter oud, something like Oud Wood from Tom Ford or Oud Noir from Versace. But if you really want to get into oud, like the hard stuff, great way to start is Gucci Intense Oud. And this really is an intense oud. If you put oud and leather together, you're going to get something very dark as well. And often they will add raspberry. They did that with Tuscan leather. They did that with Ombre Nomade. And they did that here. But what I love about this, and why this is a really good fragrance to start with the hardcore oud, is because this is so smooth. I've described this fragrance before, but I was really looking for the word that fit, and that is the word. This is very smooth. There's a combination of frankincense and saffron here that just level everything out. It's an absolutely beautiful scent. And I think if more people tried something like this before they, got heavily into some stinky ouds, this one would work really well. Another good adventurous fragrance for people that have tried everything and want to try something completely different. This is L'Envol by Cartier. This is the Eau de Parfum. And boy, oh boy, this might be the most different thing that I've ever put on my skin, but you wouldn't know it by the notes because there's a lot of Gaiac wood and honey here. Gaiac wood is smoky and it's a heavy wood. Then you're going to get honey, obviously very sweet, very rich. But there's so much violet leaf in here that it lightens up the whole thing. I got this because it had a lot of iris, but even that is lightened up. So it's a super strange scent, and it's not one that, like, when you first put it on, you're like, where is it? It's super transparent. You don't expect it to last a long time. You'd think it'd be gone quickly, but no, it really does last a long time. It's quite different. Now, I have this at number 7 because it's been discontinued. It is hard to get, but there are a lot of cool things about it. This is an excellent bottle. The quality of everything here is really good. To me, this feels like a step above all the other Cartier fragrances that I've tried in terms of overall quality. But yeah, don't expect a normal wear. This is more for the adventurous type, if you can in fact find it. But yeah, even if you can't, just give this a try. It's an interesting one. Fragrance number 8, if you stayed this long in the video, this is something, just a little bit of advice I get, and I'm very, very familiar with this house. I've owned 19 of their fragrances between Riiffs and ENCYCLOPEDIAS, but Fareed, which is a very recent release of theirs, this is the real deal. This is their most effective, best clone that I have tried in the house. It's got a lot of play on iFragrance Official. There was a big article on this fragrance. It was up for a long time because it's really, really good. And it's perfect if you really like La Nuit de l'Homme. And you should, because the 2010s La Nuit de l'Homme was the number 2 men's fragrance on earth, only behind Bleu de Chanel. Right? So it's great. It's very seductive, but we all know it has been watered down, the original, and then Bleu Electrique was released. It got discontinued. So I think the best wear for La Nuit de l'Homme is a clone, and this is the best clone I have tried. And here's an interesting thing. If you're looking at clones, a clone of a subtle scent, that's going to be much harder to tell it's a clone than if it's something that's very, very loud. Because if it's loud, you can kind of pick holes in various aspects of it, but the fragrance is subtle. It's much harder to tell. I cannot tell the difference between this And my original, I got a sample. I sold my original La Nuit de l'Homme, and I kept a sample, and I cannot tell the difference. I've tried it repeatedly, but this is way stronger. I got a compliment wearing this morning. And so, yeah, look, I'm not getting paid for this. It's not sponsored in any way. I did my video for them, but this is just really, really good. I just wanted to pass that on in case you were interested. And even the bottle, it's not as crazy over the top Middle Eastern. So anyway, yeah, I got tired of talking about marketing, and I just thought, yeah, and most people that watch my channel, they're not going to be influenced by much marketing. I mean, we know fragrances. We're really into fragrances, and so, yeah, I just thought I'd give some to you guys. You know, and because like we're all kind of on a journey when it comes to fragrances, and especially something like Oud Minerale. I had no interest in that at all. I just thought it was too weird, and then I bumped into it in Sephora, and it just blew me away. So, yeah, just a few options. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy.